Oh my God.
Hi, Shaimaa. How are you?
Hi, Siris. How are you? Really happy to have you here. This is my first video ever interviewing someone, and I'm glad that you are the first one. I opened this thing with you, and let's see what will happen.
I am super honored to launch you on this journey of being more seen and found. And that's what I love empowering
You
people
are
to
the one
do.
who kicked my ass. You
I
are the
did.
one
I
who kicked.
did.
Yeah. Oh my God. You have no idea.
So how did I kick your ass exactly?
The last call meeting that we have with the team, and something like calling me, Shaimaa, you have to make an interview. You have to be seen. This thing that you make. Inviting people while you are in the background, this is not working. You have to be seen. You have to interviewing. I like Inspire Nation videos, and I like his way to reconnect with people and make a separate consciousness. And I like this thing. I can experience that and see what will show up.
Yeah.
And I can get myself out of control because the universe is here, and let's allow it to work through me. I have no idea what to ask, but I will let it flow.
Well, and I believe it. I'm glad that you got to that awareness for yourself, because I think I was just like, what's your way of connecting? What's your gifts with this? And then you came up with these wonderful ideas and invited me to have this conversation. So yeah, let's see where it goes and go from there. But part of what I love is that sometimes just by us being willing to show up and be more visible ourselves, it invites other people to do it in their own way. And as you can see, like, your way of being in the world is different than mine. And it's not that it's better or worse, it's just different. And I think that a lot of people have been hiding, and a lot of people have been holding themselves back in a lot of ways, to not really live in a very exuberant way, to really fully like embody with their bodies, and to really actually connect with everyone and everything that's trying to connect with them. So we focus on all the things that are missing and all the people that are missing, instead of, well, who's here and what's here, and going from there.
Yeah. Okay, about embody thing, you have this beautiful technique, living and dying. Would you expand in that, and what's your beginning point? What lead you to that path?
Gosh.
And to create this technique?
Yeah, I created the living and dying body process, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint any one thing. It was this my entire life's journey that led me to creating it, and a combination of so many different modalities and trainings and awarenesses. The biggest thing was me knowing that life and living could be different than what I was seeing other people choose. My family and my friends, and even myself. I was chronically sick. I was chronically in pain. I was full of anxiety and depression, for a long time, definitely through middle school and my parents' divorces, through at least my early 20s, if not my like early 30s. And it got better, and it would fluctuate up and down, and I would try different things. And some of them lasted for a week, some of them lasted for a minute, some of them lasted for a couple weeks. And but I just wouldn't give up. And I kept asking different questions. And one of the modalities and systems of tools that really helped me get that last piece, because I was already on my way, was access consciousness. And that's how we met. We met through a lot of access consciousness tools and videos I was doing around that. And one of the questions that I got from one of the founders was, what do I know that maybe nobody else knows? And I thought it was going to be about kids, and I thought it was going to be about language and multiculturalism and all the stuff that I'd been working on professionally, that I'd all these like degrees and licenses on. And it was like, it wasn't actually about that at all. It was about living. It was about dying. It was about life and death and creation and destruction, and all these places where I had been aware of that and locking it in my body and in my reality, and where I was aware that other people were locking it in their bodies and in their realities. And I was like, well, what do I know about that can invite people to live in an exuberant way, and what I've known was possible since I was a kid, maybe even before that. And then I started playing around with clients and trying out these different movements and activations, and was actually starting to talk to the body process like it was a person, and having these conversations with the body process. And it would tell me, move your hand like this, say this, do this. And people would be like, whoa, what was that? And ooh, this is different. And I was like, yeah, tell me about it. Because I was like discovering along with them what it could create. I'm still learning all the different things it can create. But one of the things that most people report is that they feel more spacious, they feel relaxed, they feel like they're more of what's true for them. And then they also get a greater sense of joy and a clarity about what living can be like for them, that maybe they've only gotten a glimpse of before, or maybe they've never had an idea of, because they've been so full of everybody else's stuff. I used to say that I'm a container and I'm full, and I was aware of it. I'm like, I'm taking on other people's things, but I didn't know how to empty it out. And then I started playing with all these different energetic tools, and I started emptying it out and emptying it out and emptying it out. And with that emptying it out, it gave me the space to then add in and have these conversations with the energies of living and dying in this completely different way that was always there waiting for me to discover, but it was just covered by all this other muck and that wasn't mine.
I experienced it myself, and it was magical. It was different technique, and I feel something like leaving my body. I feel like it's like a shock to my body to become alive and to invite life into me. That was different. That's what make me interested in your work and invite people more to your work and discover more. And I really love to play with you, Siris. Thank you so much to come to my way and to come to my life. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I have a question for you. When it was this shock of living, I think that actually illustrates a really great point. Like, are we truly willing to live with our bodies? A lot of people, when they are confronted with intensity, they do leave their bodies, or they do go into their heads and try to understand it, or something else that isn't necessarily what's going to create more. And so how, when you were receiving the living and dying body process, how were you able to stay with your body and receive it, even though it was surprising?
It was surprising. I think I get out of my body because I feel like I was in like fight with some entity. Like we both get out of my body and something leaving, and then I get into my body when you talk in the finish of the session. I felt like, wow, what is that?
This is the first time I'm hearing this, so this is really interesting and really cool for me.
Yeah, and
you guys, we didn't plan this. I'm like, this is news to me, so this is really cool. And yet, it's so different for every person. I haven't had anyone else say that they experienced it in this way, but I'm so glad that through that process and through that journey, you were willing to have even more connection with your body again. And then what's that created?
And that was inviting me to dive into walk in and read about walk in, and and find these things, talk to the entities. I get interested so much with talk to the entities. Talk,
Beautiful
yeah,
system of tools as well. And that's what I
yes.
love, is that it's not about one or the other. I use tantra, I use theta healing, I use shamanism and access consciousness. All of it together, and my willingness to continue to have conversations with all these different energies is what allowed this to show up. Living is inclusive. Living and an
Yeah.
awareness of what you're living is continually having these conversations with anything that will work. And then dying is everywhere that you're willing to let go of the stuff that doesn't work. So it's not actually what we've been told at all. It's also something that can be really expansive, but a lot of people block out the dying and so they're not able to let go, like what you just expressed. You let go of this entity, you let go of this energy that was not going to work for you anymore, that was getting in the way. So you had dying in that moment. You let go of something that wasn't going to work so that you could then have more living, the stuff that was going to work. And so what the body process does, and what these conversations do, it allows you to not just add and add and add without getting the stuff that's in the way. That's like constipation. When you're constipated and you're trying to eat and you just feel like, well, you got to like clear it out and empty it out, and then while also adding in both of these are required for you to have a healthy system, corporally, physically, and also energetically.
Beautiful. How you deal with the resistance from people about the dying, because this is so scary. This is out of control and out of the comfort zone. How you deal with the resistance from people who are dealing with resisting this to come to living and dying, or resisting dying.
Yeah. Well, one, I usually talk more about the living part. I usually talking about the awakening part. So the class where people learn this technique is called the awakening class now. At first, we were talking about awakening your capacities with living and dying, and it became like a distraction for people instead of an invitation. So we're like, all right, we'll just change it. We're going to flow more energy to what they can receive, to what they'd like more of. And then you discover over the course of the sessions, over the course of the class, what we really mean by dying, which is not death. You're not going to die. You're going to actually let go of all of the solidification and density that isn't working for you. You're going to let go of the lies and the judgment. You're going to let go of all those versions of yourself that you told yourself was you when it wasn't you. Bye. And then you get to have living
More of you
too. And it's not like this and then this. It's actually continuously both happening all at once. So that's part of that lack of control part. You don't have to like think about it. It's just cycling through, and the energies are running through you. And then you just get to go, oh my gosh, hi body. Oh, this is so great. So to answer your question, when people resist it, I just say, okay. And I keep not being resistant with my body, and choosing living and inviting them to that, and talking about what I mean when I say it, that maybe they're confused about. If they even ask me, a lot of people, they just resist it and you're aware of it and you just like, all right, okay. But I flow the energy and the attention to what is the thing that is about them that is an example of the living. And then when they acknowledge that, then you can say, well, what part had to go? What things had to leave for you to have that? And they're like, this, and this. And I'm like, guess what that is? That's dying. And they're like, oh. So it's actually starting with the living and starting with the yes for them. And if they're even willing to acknowledge that, because a lot of people don't even want to talk about living either. They don't. Like, what do you mean by that? I am living. I'm breathing, right? Are you? And then when you start there, then it's like, all right, well, a lot of people don't have to realize and don't notice all of the things that can't be in existence in that same place with this thing that is living for them. And so that's what you had to let go of. That's what you had to like not make it solid in your world anymore. And it can be so beautiful, and it can be so much easier and faster than what we've been told.
Okay, Siris, you have two upcoming events in February, Exuberant Living and the other one about codes. Can you talk to us about what will you invite us in these two creations?
Yeah, so Exuberantly You in Relationships is actually a mix of all the different modalities, including the living and dying body process, where we talk directly over the course of 8 conversations. Every couple of weeks, we meet and we're going to talk about, well, what is exactly you being exuberantly you, all of what's true for you in relationships, your relationship to yourself, your relationship with your body, your relationship with your kids and your partners and your family. Like, are you willing to actually be totally present as you and have your voice in your relationships? And then the hidden codes, the hidden figures and codes is this great little intro class that where we play with magic and we play with art, and people are going to come in and bring materials from all mediums that they like. Like I'll probably have some oil pastels and paint and embroidery floss because I love to embroider, and like plastic canvas and things like that. And we're going to all have like a box of whatever size. It could be like a Kleenex box, like a tissue box. It could be a shoe box. It could be a big packing box. And we decorate it with the energies and the colors of our gifts and capacities with living and dying. So actually acknowledging what that is for us. And we'll be facilitated. I'm going to ask questions and facilitate the people that are like, where do I even start in discovering what this is for me? Well, it's like, where do you even start with the relationships too? It's, what do you know about that? And what would you really like to have as your life? And what would you really like to have as your relationship? So they're very interwoven. They're very complementary. So you can choose one, the other, both, whichever you'd like. But the hidden figures and codes is also going to be talking about the archetypes of living and dying, many of which are ideas and concepts that many people have been thinking about, or maybe they've heard of, and they don't realize what parts are true about those ideas and what parts are not true, and how we can use those energies to discover and play with and explore more of our own unique gifts and capacities. Like we could actually use these energies of the archetypes to create our lives, to create our living, to create our relationships, to apply them to business. I mean, I do. It's really fun, but I have to be willing to be aware of those archetypes to be able to use them to my advantage. Are people willing to be aware of them?
What do you mean about the archetype?
So archetypes is just an idea that symbolizes or represents a combination of things. So for instance, one archetype that's really common that people have heard of, most people have heard of, are angels and demons, right? Those are both archetypes of living and dying. It's not that angels are living and demons are dying. They actually both have both. We can talk about that. Or yin and yang, or the idea of a grave digger. So we looked at grave diggers in one of my classes, and we realized it was an archetype that was this hidden figure that for some people, it invited us to actually dig ourselves out of where we were hiding, out of where we were buried. A lot of people don't think of it as the living aspect of it. They think of it, oh, they're actually shoveling in the dirt and preparing the burial spot for someone that's dead to go in. But what if it's actually about uncovering you as well? And uncovering your gifts, uncovering the gems that you be. And then also, what about all of those different people in the world? And some people that might be listening to this are in countries where they have a history of those who have been buried with no name. And what if we can give a voice to those people that have been marginalized, have disappeared, that don't have a proper burial, that didn't get the honoring that they would like, and we can honor them. So there's a lot in the Gravedigger alone, and that's just one of about 50 different archetypes of living and dying. We'll just talk about a couple in the intro. We have an advanced class in May where we talk about as many of them as we can get to over the course of that time. But that's what we're going to be playing around with, and then we can decorate our treasure chest that is us, these boxes with these energies. And then with exuberantly you in relationships, well, I wonder which of those archetypes would be a contribution to the relationships.
I get interested in Gravedigger thing.
Oh, I love it.
This is
Gravedigger is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is first time I hear about it. But when you talk about it, it brings something in me. It brings that old memory from in Arab world, in Middle Eastern, they used to bird a little girl when she is born, because she will bring shame. This is from history. This is not now. This is from history. And when you talk about Gravedigger, this girl came to me. The memory, it's like in the collective, in the consciousness. It's just you bring something up new.
And there's a lot of kids. I mean, I work with kids and families all the time. You know, I do. We've talked a lot about kids and families, and how many kids would like to have more of a voice in the world. And so if we're willing to have the Gravedigger energy, we get to actually speak for them, invite them to have those voices, and invite their opinions and their input to be heard more in the world, so that maybe we can create a world and a future for them that is sustainable, that will work, that'll be kind and nurturing to them, given whatever gifts and capacities they have as well.
Thank you for opening this door, Siris. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for this conversation. Anyone here has any questions about any of this, go ahead and feel free to reach out to Shaimaa or myself. And thank you again, Shaimaa. I hope you had fun with your first video.
This was cool. This was cool. I enjoy it.
And how does it get any better?
Yeah, and how does it get any better?
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.